And I'm on. We're back. That was a quick commercial break, very quick. Uh, my first guest is the director of the Torrington Historical Society. He's going to show us some show and tell things, as I understand. Mark McEachern, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Jeff.
Thank you for coming. Now, do you want to do show and tell first, or do you want to work that in?
Let's work that in. There's some things that we could talk about, and I have brought some things that will help illustrate some of the things I'll be mentioning.
Okay.
For example,
Yes.
the book that we are cooperating and publishing this year, which is a book about Erastus Hodges, who is a Connecticut businessman, merchant, entrepreneur in the early 19th century.
Okay.
And it's kind of an exciting project because it's something a little bit different for us in that we're cooperating with two other entities in order to publish this book. One is the National Association of Watch and Clock Collectors, and they have a particular interest in this book because Hodges was a clockmaker here in Torrington.
Okay.
And also the author of the book, who is a descendant of Hodges. He is the author of the book, and between the three of us, we are each chipping in some money toward publication of the volume. And I brought along a clock movement, which will give us an idea of the kind of clock that Erastus Hodges constructed. These were very popular in the early 1800s. From about 1800 to 1835 is when Hodges was in the business of clockmaking. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see inside the mechanism itself.
I won't stick my head in there because the camera's not going to get to see. Now, is this...
The gears are all wood.
Those are wooden gears?
Wooden gears. So there's a considerable art into machining those from wood.
But they were machined. Or were they carved by hand? Like
No, they were. I believe they were machined.
Okay.
With saws. And one theory is that they were actually made in more than one at a time. Even a machine, they were set up so that several blanks could be machined into gears at once.
Okay.
For these, and they were mass produced. It was one of the beginnings of mass production
during the Industrial Revolution,
right,
which of course was in the 1800s. Now, I see a string hanging down here from the movement. Is this like for a weight, like a cuckoo clock that we would know of today, or is that something totally...
These were weight-driven.
Weight-driven, okay.
There's a strike train and a time train. The time train, of course, is the actual keeping time itself, and the strike train is for the bell that rings on the hour.
Oh,
so
okay.
The clocks did both.
I don't know anything about clocks, so this is, except how to read one, fortunately. I learned that in school.
But this revolutionized clock making in America, and actually democratized timekeeping because they were so cheap that everybody could afford them. Even farmers had them.
So before clocks were mass-produced?
Before these clocks, really.
Yeah. Then what did people do?
Well, very few people actually had timepieces. Farmers, for example, used the sun.
The sundials,
basically,
right.
And the sun itself.
Okay, just where it was in the sky.
Right. Well, it looks like morning, and
so, and so we have it.
Right, right. There's the roosters. I guess I better get up.
Now, just to kind of backtrack just a little bit, okay? For me, for the audience, renovation. How do you decide on what you're going to do? Like when you take a look at a site, a building, its architecture, whatever. How do you decide? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Do you look for buildings of a certain age, or do you look more at the condition of the building? What sort of things go into making a decision on what to renovate and how to go about it to restore something to its original beauty and whatever? Right. When someone presents you with a project or an idea for a project.
Well, as far as the building goes, the first thing you have to look at is if it's secure to against the weather. Is the roof in good shape? That's the most important thing on a historic building. Okay. A roof that's intact and keeping out the rain. And then you look basically around the foundation, making sure that's in good condition. And sills are a problem often on old buildings. Their sills are close to the ground. They're often damp and prone to rotting. So the first thing when you're concerned about restoring an old building is the basic structure itself before you get involved in any type of cosmetic work. It's certainly premature to think about that. But once you do get involved in the interior and cosmetic things, then you try to preserve as much of the original as possible and not alter it.
Exactly.
Even down to saving samples of original paint. Even if a room is to be painted a different color, For example, you would save a small patch of original paint on the trim somewhere so that it would be documented for the future.
Okay. Now, how long have you been doing this?
I've been involved at the Torrington Historical Society for about 12 years now,
Okay.
which is about how long I've been involved in the field.
Okay. Now, is your training in this?
No, it's not, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Something I came to by a somewhat different route, through photography. I was interested
okay.
in antique photographs and hired to do a special project at the museum printing glass plate negatives. And the first year, actually the first few years that I worked there, was strictly involved with antique photography. And actually the Torrington Historical Society has a pretty good collection of antique photographs and a rather interesting collection of glass plate negatives by a local photographer who was an amateur. He did a lot of photography in the 1890s.
Mm-hmm.
And my first project involved his set of negatives and printing his negatives and then doing a show in the museum based on some of the better prints from that collection.
So from there, you went on to working with buildings and
Basically everything, the full range of things. Now I spend a lot of time raising money, writing grants, and not working with the artifacts as much anymore.
right.
Because I've just advanced to that level where that is the priority now.
It is to get the funds and to get other people motivated
Right.
into that. Now, how do you get other people involved? What kind of activities does the Historical Society do to make other people aware of the work that you do and to get people interested? What kind of things do you have going on?
Well, exhibits are one of the mainstays that we use in order to keep the museum in the public's eye.
Mm-hmm.
We also do lectures, but exhibits seem to attract a little bit more attention. Last year we did 2 special exhibits, one about Torrington native John Brown and his abolitionist movement, and the other was kind of different. It was an art-based exhibit featuring sculpture by Tim Prentice from Cornwall, musical instruments that were also sculptural, and
Really?
some works of art on paper by Robert Parker from Cornwall.
Wow.
So that was kind of an exciting exhibit, blending those two things. And at the opening of that exhibit, we had a concert. And then as a spin-off, everybody had such a great time at the opening, listening to the music, that we did a concert a month later when the exhibit closed. Actually, it was 2 months later when the exhibit closed. And we're bringing back those musicians at the end of February for another follow-up concert. We sold out. When was the concert? I guess it was in early December. We sold out. And so we're bringing them back, an even larger group this time.
Now, the concert, was it played on these historical instruments?
It was a mix of things.
Yeah? Because that, to me, I'm a musician by background. That's a real big interest to me because I have played antique instruments.
These weren't antique instruments.
They weren't.
They were modern. They were made out of very common materials, 2x4s, PVC pipe, mailing tubes with
okay.
wood on top. They were
I see. All
strictly
right.
modern creations. And people could play them in the exhibit.
That's very clever.
And a lot of people came by and had a great time. It was funny to see people walk in off the street, not knowing what to expect, and watching them sort of tentatively pick up some mallets and start to play the marimba-like instruments, and then after a while they really got the feel of it, and they went out. And they left after having a very good time.
That would sort of bring out the child in you, I guess, because when you're a young person, you just kind of pick up stuff and bang on it and play make-believe flutes and what have you out of straws. And I used to do that, with the straws, shorten them and blow on them like whistles and stuff. That's
Sure, you can make music out of anything. We had a school group there one day, and some of the instruments were bells that were suspended in cages. So I gave some of the bells to some of the students and had them start a bell choir. And then the pedestals that the bells were on were very much like this desk, and some kids started banging on the pedestals and using them as percussion instruments, and had quite a thing going.
That's great.
All improvised.
Now, in addition to doing renovation of buildings, structures, and things like that, now, do you do other types of renovation?
Well, as far as the Historical Society goes, we're really basically concerned with the 3 buildings that are on the site, which the Historical Society occupies. There's a Victorian House Museum. There's another Victorian-aged building which serves as an exhibit space, and there's another building of the same vintage, which was the original carriage house, which we use for the concerts and for public assemblies, meetings, and things like that. But aside from the buildings, we're also trying to restore the grounds of the main house. When it was a residence, it was the residence of first the Filer family and later their daughter and son-in-law, the Hotchkisses. And Mrs. Hotchkiss was an avid gardener, and she had the grounds extensively cultivated with many types of rare flowers. And we're trying to reestablish some of those gardens. With
the same types of growth?
Ideally,
yeah?
Ideally. It's a little difficult because the trees have grown up to such an extent that
the roots.
Well, not only the roots, but the shade that they have created over the years kind of precludes, planting some of the same varieties that she had. So we try to use whatever sunny spots we have to plant the sun-loving things that she grew. But she had 2 full-time gardeners during the growing season, which is something that we can't afford to hire. So we've started our own garden club, basically. And we call it a garden committee, but it's basically a club-like. Some of our members have gotten involved in it, and they've taken on assignments, more or less, each responsible for a different section of the grounds during the growing season.
So, and you let volunteers come in and work alongside people maybe with more experience? Is it sort of like a learning
Well,
thing,
we're always looking for people with more experience, believe me.
So well, now you've heard it. Now you've heard it.
If there are any master gardeners out there, we're always in need of people to come down and lend a helping hand. Not only master gardeners, but people willing to learn and help out. Because the more people we have, the more flowers that we can plant, and the more we can get the grounds to look as they did during the earlier part of the century.
Do you have any pictures with you tonight of how that garden looked?
I actually did. I brought a photograph from the 1930s. And I think Jeff has it, as a matter of fact.
Okay, well, it will magically appear.
Right.
In the meantime, I notice that we have a little something here on my desk. What is this?
Oh, this little tag to help me identify something I brought from the collection. I brought a few things from the collection.
Okay.
It's
show and tell time. Okay, now, can we get a sort of a close-up on this? I'll move the microphone just a tad.
One of the strongest parts of our collection is the industrial history collection. Torrington, was primarily an industrial town from the mid-19th century through the mid-20th century, and the largest industry in town for much of that time was the brass mill. And of course, during World War I and World War II, the brass mill made munitions, or parts for munitions.
Right.
And this World War I field artillery piece contains different types of brass that the brass mill manufactured for different purposes. And this was made as a commemorative and given to Major William Bess of Torrington. And if I could just use this tag here for a minute to cheat a bit. These parts were manufactured by the Co-Brass branch of American Brass between 1914 and 15. And the parts were used in artillery and rifle cases. The cannon here was made of French bullet bronze, and the wheels were made from cupro nickel, which was used for bullet jackets. So it's kind of interesting, given that history.
And again, now how old is this particular piece?
I actually don't know when it was made. It must have been made right after World War I. So maybe 1918, 1919, sometime around then. It was presented to Captain Bill Bess of Torrington.
It's very nicely made. I mean, it's just...
It's beautifully machined.
Yeah, very.
Of course, there was no shortage of good machinists in Torrington.
Because that's the history for this whole area. I mean, Waterbury and Torrington and Watertown. I mean, I live in Waterbury area, so I've driven past a lot of these, former, brass, places. And of course, Waterbury was Brass City.
Sure.
And I had no idea. I mean, I've learned a lot just about the industrial end of this part of the country, being sort of a newcomer to this area. But I had no idea that they did things like this as well. I think that's absolutely fascinating. Now, the picture I was asking you before about the garden, it doesn't show up well on camera, I'm told. So I'm afraid we have to forego that. But did you have anything else, kind of related to that to kind of give our audience an idea of what sort of things you're doing right now? Any pictures of what you're trying to restore?
Nothing along those lines, but if I could backtrack for a moment to the Hodges project again, I brought a clock dial that was typical of the dials used on
Should I
those
move this?
wooden
Can I
movement
touch this?
clocks. Yeah,
It's
I
heavy.
think that's okay.
Okay.
And these clock dials are wonderful pieces of folk art, and quite often they were painted by women who lived in the community. They were taken on as piecework, more or less. They would contract with a clockmaker to paint, say, 50 or 100 dials for the clocks, and it was a way to make a little extra money in the home.
Literally a cottage industry.
Literally. But they're just beautiful pieces of folk art. It's quite an art in making. There's flowers painted in each of the corners, and it's no small trick getting those painting those numbers on freehand.
Now I see a date. It looks like
yes,
on
actually some information on the back of a piece, which is a rare thing indeed. Of course, reading is another matter. Made by father, painted by mother, 1830.
Wow.
So in our accession records, we have identification, I'm sure, for who
Right.
father and mother were. But it looks like it was the Cowles family, because I see another name printed on here, Mrs. Albro Cowles. So they lived in the vicinity of the Hodges clock factory. So this could very well be a clock face for one of the Hodges clocks. I'll have to do a little more research on that to verify that. And the book itself is a real labor of love for the author, Ted Hodges. He spent 20 years going through family archival materials in order to reconstruct the business transaction of Hodges and all the things that the family was involved in. And I just wanted to show you one of the account books that was used to give you an idea of how difficult the project was. If you can see the...
oh my gosh, hold that up, hold that up.
This is an account book.
That's tremendous.
1795 from the Hodges store on what was then the Torrington Green.
Okay, let's turn it a little this way.
This way.
Yeah. Let's see. Lend a hand here.
And you can imagine deciphering thousands and thousands of pages of handwritten letters and manuscripts written in this type of handwriting. Truly, it took 20 years to amass the material necessary to write the book. And it's exciting that something like this will be actually published and coming to press very soon.
Now this actual original document is on display at the Historical
Not
Society?
on display, it's part of our archives.
Okay.
And I want to mention that our library and archives are one of the most important parts of our collection, and one that occupies probably the most of our time, actually, because we literally collect everything pertaining to Torrington history, and much of that is on paper. We have a few rare items like this, 18th century account books, but much of it's 19th and 20th century materials relating to industrial matters. And I just brought this along. This is an operator's handbook for a Hendy lathe, to give you another look at some of the things in our collection. It's amazing how many requests we get from people all over the country for copies of this handbook, because the Hendy lathes were made in Torrington, and they were sturdy machines made from the 1870s right up through the 1950s, and often people don't have handbooks to go with them.
Yes, let's sit up there and see if we can get a close-up maybe on a couple of the illustrations in the book. So now, this tells how to use the machine. I suppose it probably has something in there about repairing the machine for minor little maintenance.
There's a bit in there, how to set it up, and how to do various operations on the machine, the various attachments that were available with the machine, and how to use it. Just had a call yesterday, as a matter of fact, from someone in New Mexico who just recently bought one of these, and we made a copy of this handbook today and sent it off to him.
So these are still in use? These machines are still in use?
They are.
So you have a demand. That's a great testament to the quality of the workmanship. And this, this as well.
These were exported all over the world, too, these machines.
They were.
Some of them were even sent to Russia in the early part of the century. They were made with Russian plates on them with all the necessary calculations and calibrations in Russian.
Right.
So we haven't had any requests from Russia yet, though, for handbooks. I don't think don't know if it would do them any good. I don't know.
We have a couple minutes left before we go to a commercial break. Did you have anything else here that you wanted to show us before we take a break here?
How'd you see Caruso?
Caruso? Caruso, okay. As in Enrico?
Of course. I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the other things that our collection is comprised of. We also collect work by area artists, and in the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s, there was an artist in Torrington named Paolo Abate, who was a sculptor, and one of his busts was of Caruso, and this was on his front porch, and it was damaged by vandals, and one of his friends salvaged a broken piece and made a new plaster cast from that damaged piece, and then subsequently gave it to the museum. So this is a fragment of Caruso.
Oh, gosh.
So it's
now, how old is this?
this was probably made, I would say, in the 1960s sometime. So it's not particularly old, but interesting nonetheless. We have quite a collection of Paolo Abate sculpture. Upon his death, most of his bronze and marble sculpture went to the University of Connecticut. We have some plaster things in our collection, but we don't have. I think we have one small bronze piece, but none of the large marble carvings.
Right. Our time's almost up, but I'd like for you to come back sometime soon with some of these, because there's a whole lot of goodies down here in this box that you have not seen yet, and I want him to come back with them because they're fascinating. But before we go to the commercial break, how could people get involved with the Historical Society? What who should they contact?
Well,
you or
there are two ways to get involved. One is to simply become a member.
Okay.
And anyone can become a member just by paying the yearly membership fee, and they will get invitations to exhibit openings, free admission to the museum, also notification of special events, newsletters, so forth. And rates are very reasonable. For senior citizens, I believe it starts at $5 a year and goes up 10, 15, 20, and so forth. And in addition to that, if people want to help with projects down at the museum, they should give us a call. Either way, whether they would like to become a member or help with special projects, just give us a call, 482-8260.
Repeat that number again.
482-8260.
Great.
We're in the book.
Good, good. Mark McEachern, thank you very much.
Jeff,
I hope you come back on the show. Seriously, I want to see some more of this stuff. It's fascinating. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with Denise Randis, astrologer and psychic. We'll be right back. We're on, and my headache is almost gone. Almost. Maybe it'll go away totally in the next half hour. This is TGIF. I'm Jeff. Welcome back. My next guest is an astrologer. She is also the owner of the Metaphysical Center in Watertown, Connecticut. Won't you please welcome Denise Randis. Denise, hi.
Hi, how you doing, Jeff?
Good, good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Delighted. Denise, probably the first thing to do for the audience, I know that you have your own show here on Cable 5. On what day is it?
It's on Mondays, evenings.
Okay, at 10 o'clock. But not everyone may catch that show. For people who watch your show on a regular basis, they probably have a pretty good understanding of psychic phenomena and astrology and things like that. But for my audience who may not tune into your show yet, and hopefully they will in the future, why don't you talk a little bit about what astrology is and how you work with astrology and other areas to help individuals?
Well, astrology is probably the oldest science in the world. From the beginning of time, we had the planetary transits, and from the beginning of time, we've always had people wondering what they were. What I do is I study the planetary effects on human nature. It's a science. And what I do is I compose a blueprint of each individual that comes in to see me. And that blueprint is the potential character of the individual. I, as an astrologer, can basically tell where the individual is at this point of time, where he should be focusing the most positive energies available to him. I work with cycles. I work with psychological problems from early environment. And what my job is to pull that individual up to the highest potential that he is capable of accomplishing in this lifetime.
Okay, now, what kind of information does an astrologer need in order to do this? Because it sounds like a very foreboding task. I mean, that's a tall order to fill. What kind of things would someone need to be able to tell you?
The time of birth is very important. And what I always try to tell people is the only time you're true of your sun sign is if you are born when the sun rises in the morning over the eastern horizon of the earth. And that is between 5:30 and 6:30 in the morning. Then you're true of your sun sign. And of course, if you...
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Sun
Yeah.
sign meaning Capricorn, Aquarius.
That's correct.
Okay,
Right.
the astrological signs which we see, like in the daily horoscopes,
Right.
the terms that we're familiar with as laymen, okay, just the basic signs.
The sun changes its sign of the zodiac once a month. That's why you have 12 months in a year, 12 signs of the zodiac.
Right.
And if you watch the sun cycle from your window, you can see it rising up to 12 noon, which is right above you. And if you're born, say, at 12 noon, then the signs of the zodiac that follow it, especially the one coming over the eastern horizon at 12 noon, is actually the ruler of your personality.
That sign, not necessarily your, quote, sun sign,
That's correct.
but the sign which is, okay.
Right. Your sun sign can be in any one of the signs of the zodiac, but the only time you are a true Capricorn or a true Pisces or a true Scorpio is when you're born between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m.
Okay, so now what is it called when you are, not, quote, true to your sun sign and you are being influenced by other signs? Is there a term for that? I've always heard on the cusp. I think that probably gets abused. I don't know, but I've always heard people say, well, I'm a Taurus, but I have, an Aquarius cusp, or I'm on the cusp of this, or I'm on the cusp of that. And my understanding of it has always been people who were born near the end of the month or near the end of their astrological sign. For example, I'm a Capricorn.
Right.
I think the last day for Capricorn is January 21st.
Yes, something like that.
Okay, so if someone said, I was born January 20th, I'm on the cusp of Aquarius, is that true?
Yes, all that means is that each sign of the zodiac is 30 degrees from 0 to 30. There's 360 degrees in a circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you take 12 times 30, it's 360.
Right.
So each day of the month
Mm-hmm.
corresponds to a degree. So if you're born the first day of the sign, you're a 0 degree, then a 1 degree, 2 degree, until you reach 29, and then it rolls over to 0 again, which is actually 29.
Mm. So now, how profoundly, as you go through, the month, how profoundly can a person change? I mean, how, what? I'm not expressing myself.
No,
well.
I know exactly what you're
I have all these
saying.
questions in my mind because this is
That's
fascinating.
okay, I know
It's
exactly what
fascinating
you
to me.
mean.
Yeah.
All right, when you get involved with astrology,
Mhm.
you're not really talking 2 weeks or a month.
Uh-huh.
Astrology, if you take it very seriously, takes an awfully long time to understand, especially interpretation.
Right.
I've been involved with astrology for almost 22 years,
Okay.
and I'm still learning. Okay, so the degrees are important because all the planets keep on moving. And if, say, your sun sign is 28 degrees of Capricorn, that's almost towards the end of the month, before you get into the sign next to it, okay? If you get a planet that is transiting, say the moon is the fastest moving planet,
The
right?
moon
It's
is
not actually a planet, but we
Okay.
call it a planet.
Okay, all right.
When the moon hits, say, 28 degrees of Capricorn, then it affects you. Up until that point, it will affect people who are either from 0 to 28 degrees. As the moon travels, it's knocking off degrees as it goes along.
Mhm.
So do the other planets. Fastest moving planets are the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Those are the fastest moving planets.
Mhm.
Your slowest moving planets in the zodiac cause the major situations in life for each individual.
What are the slowest moving planets? I'm curious.
Jupiter,
Uh-huh.
it takes 1 full year to make 1 complete cycle.
Uh-huh.
Saturn takes 29 years.
I knew it. That's my
Yes.
rule. That's my rule.
Yes, 29 years.
My ruling planet. It's the slowest one in the universe, people. That's why.
And wherever Saturn is placed in your chart is where you will work the hardest. But then again, it's where you will excel also, once the lessons are learned.
Wow. Okay. Now, other than astrology, do you work in any other areas? And I don't want to say the occult sciences, because that's not. I mean, some people do label it that, but I prefer metaphysical myself.
Well,
do you specialize in other areas other than astrology, or is astrology your main pursuit?
I have no problem with the word occult.
Okay.
I delve into the occult.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the word occult means unknown. To most people out there, they have associated occult with cult. C-U-L-T.
Right. Right.
You know, you belong to a cult. A-C-U-L-T. So right away, they figure occult is occult. It's
Right.
not.
Right.
And this is just one tiny little misinterpretation that causes a lot of problems.
Okay. Now, what are your feelings about what is now being called the New Age?
I think it's wonderful.
Okay. Now, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, the New Age is really not so new, because a lot of the arts and sciences which are practiced by people who are lumped into that New Age category, someone who's a New Age believer, for want of a better example, probably Shirley MacLaine. Okay, I mean, she's someone that a lot of people have seen her books. She's written a lot of books about her experiences and whatever. But all the things that she's written about, I've read her books, are really old sciences. It's not like this stuff popped up yesterday. These are things that have been around, such as astrology, for centuries.
The New Age is going to be approximately 2,100 years long.
And has it started yet, or is it going to start?
We're right on the cusp of the New Age. So I guess you could say that, yes, we are indirectly entering the New Age.
Okay.
The New Age is in the sign of Aquarius.
Okay, all right. Okay, the age of Aquarius. Now, in general, what kind of things do you think are going to happen? What kind of changes, or some people have been as bold as to say upheavals in social structure and things like that. What do you see coming in the New Age?
Well, I think in every age you've had upheavals.
Right.
You're not ever going to get rid of upheavals, because without upheaval, you're not really going to learn anything.
Right. Do you think that people will be more open to the occult in the New Age, or do you think it's still going to be sort of a, I don't want to say a battle, but it's a struggle, for people to present the occult into the mainstream? It's not something that's always easily accepted or readily accepted. And I think when we talked about this before the show, when we were out in the lobby, about being conditioned as children, growing up by society, by our parents, by the religions that our parents choose for themselves, and therefore they choose for us as children to reject other forms of thinking, perhaps more open, alternate forms, philosophies of life. Do you think that in the New Age there will be more room for traditional versus the occult to coexist?
What I believe the New Age is going to bring is a new religion of sorts. I'm not too sure whether I'd want to classify it as religion, because I think religion has rules and regulations that are man-made, that do not conform to everyone.
Right.
What I believe the New Age is going to bring is a universal type of religion that is going to be the type of religion or the type of spiritual belief that everyone and anyone will feel welcomed in. The New Age is also going to bring, in the occult area, truth. A lot of your old ways of healing, which gets into a lot of your herbs, a lot of your deceptive situations based around astrology and in numerology will be recognized as not being so deceptive after all. I think that goes along also with Pluto's transit in Scorpio, where a lot of the deceptions are going to come out in the open, including the fact that not all astrologers are evil. Some astrologers may be, but then again, not all ministers, priests, rabbis are evil. Some of them may be. Not all salesmen are deceptive, but some of them may be.
Not all renovators are evil either.
That's true.
Knives are evil. Yeah, there's some people here who know that story, but that's from another life that I had.
So I think truth has an awful lot to do with New Age, along with a higher level of spirituality. I think that's where meditation comes in, astral projection comes in.
Mhm.
You know, if you think of the word God, if you really think about the word God, it's universal. There is just knowledge personified. And we are only this much towards perfection. And I think the Aquarian Age is going to bring us another 2,100 years of higher knowledge and learning.
So we're not going to be taking a step backwards. We're going to be going forwards and
Always
perhaps
forward.
at a faster
Always
pace.
forward, yes.
That's good. Now, I have to ask you this. Okay. No, I do. I really do.
Do I have to answer it?
No, you don't. No, you don't. But since you're held hostage on my show, yeah, it's to your advantage to answer the questions, because we're going to strap you in the chair until you do. Today is a very special day for a lot of people. Okay, it is Elvis Presley's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, a lot of people have said that they have seen Elvis since he was reported dead. Do you believe that Elvis is alive? I mean, and here's why I ask. Okay, we talked about this too. Okay, mass events. We talked about the Jane Roberts books, the Seth books, and one of the books that Seth wrote was about mass events, the nature of mass events, just like UFO sightings and things like that. What would make an entire country, and even people in other countries, have this same phenomena that they really, and I believe that these people believe that they have seen Elvis. Is Elvis sort of alive? You know, I mean, within the realm of...
Do you want an honest answer?
Sure, I want your honest opinion, seriously.
No one dies.
Okay,
Absolutely no one dies.
okay,
The physical body dies.
okay,
The spirit continues.
okay. So, do you think that people who are sensitive to these things are seeing the spirit of Elvis?
I do not
And the
feel
spirit of
that
others?
people have only seen Elvis. I feel other people in the audience have seen other people that have passed away. So, of course, I do not judge anyone who states that he or she has seen someone that has passed away,
Okay,
because I cannot prove that they did not.
okay,
So you're talking to a lady who will believe until someone can prove to me that it does not exist.
good enough, good enough. Now, I have to hit you up for something.
I didn't get paid today.
Okay. Well, no, now, well, consider it this way. Okay, today is Elvis's birthday. Okay, next Friday is my birthday. Okay. What kind of things would you see, just off the top of your head? I can even tell you when I was born. And where I was born.
You're saying that you are a Capricorn
Yes.
sun sign.
Yeah, well, I was born January 15th.
Okay.
We won't say what year.
Oh, okay. We
Well-
don't need the year. I'll just try to
Oh,
work
I
with the
can-
house costs.
Well, I'm vain, I mean, but...
All right.
No,
Now, I
you know, if
need,
it'll help, I'll give you the year.
no,
Bill.
no, I need to have your time of birth.
11 p.m.
11 p.m.
Mhm.
That's interesting.
I went to a psychic fair in Greenwich a few years ago, and I was told the same thing. They said, that's very interesting. Unfortunately, they didn't tell me what. Maybe you
Okay.
can clear it up.
All right, so you are Capricorn here. Just give me a second,
Sure.
okay? All right, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, how old are you now? Just your age.
33.
All right, when you were 21 years old, I would like to know, and you do not have to say it to the audience, but you were when you were 21 year old,
Uh-huh.
1981 or 1982 was a very specific year for you. It was a year of growth. And you know basically what was going on that year. What I can tell you is that
Where's the camera to show my face? 'Cause I'm
in 1993,
mhm.
you will be entering that same pattern of that same year when you were 21 years old. As an astrologer, what I say to you is that if you had anything that was going on in your life that was very positive at that point in time, then you will have the opportunity in 93 to act on that. And if anything in your life was very negative at that time, you will have the opportunity again to correct any issues that were going on in your life then.
Oh, that's incredible. That
I need to also.
This is incredible. Okay, because there actually 81 was a pretty tumultuous year for me. It really was.
What I need
82
to also
rather, yeah.
say for you is that the areas of you, which is self, the area of personal relationship, certainly the area of job is going to be very unexpected and sudden issues that will be going on for you, and changes in your home life.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Is that enough, or would you like me to continue?
That, I think for the purpose of the show, that'll
Okay.
do. But seriously, and not just because we're on camera and all that, and this is live. That what you're saying makes a great deal of sense because everything you have said is actually starting to happen.
And try to understand something here also, is that astrology is a science. Anyone who is serious about astrology and anyone who is interested in understanding their own self can benefit a great deal from astrology. It's a science. It's something that you can learn. It's not something that you just get from your head. It's not a psychic area at all. It's a science.
It's a science. Okay, now, Mark. No, this will be fun. This will be fun. Would you object if Mark told you what his birth date was and all that? Would you object to maybe telling him a little about himself?
Well, just by looking at Mark, just his facial characteristic features, I would probably say that Mark is probably a very meticulous man, very detailed, very organized, and very analytical about things. He's probably got a lot of Virgo in his character, just by his features.
Virgo, August.
He's a Virgo.
When in August were you born,
That's frightening.
Well, this is
Don't
why,
be frightened.
this is why a lot of people feel sometimes that perhaps we are a little strange. I guess maybe in a way we are, because in order to get involved with this kind of an area, you have to be a little bit different to begin with. I think you have to be more evolved. You have to want to learn more. But you have to understand that the signs of the zodiac correspond with facial characteristic features and body structures. And when you do an awful lot of charts on many, many people, you get to a point where you can honestly pick out the signs of the zodiac by just observing and looking at the person.
Wow.
It's strange because you don't think of yourself as such an open book all the time.
Exactly. She started talking to me, and I was about you started talking about 81, 82, and all of a sudden I felt that in a way that had been violated because here, all of a sudden here's something spilling out here on the table, even though we didn't get specific. And then as you came up to the present, I was just kind of aback. That's wonderful. Now we have about 5 minutes left in the show, and I wanted to touch on this with you before we go. There was an article published today in the Litchfield County Times, in a copyrighted article about this is the headline here: fortune telling up for debate by legislators. Okay, now is there a controversy in the state of Connecticut over people, and I don't like the term fortune teller, but you know astrologers, psychics, people who hang out a shingle and they say come in and we'll do a reading of some sort, tarot, whatever it may be. I just got to glance at the article very quickly. Apparently, there are some people who are looking to pull up some ancient legislature and try to outlaw people in your profession and who practice the sciences that you practice. What can you tell me and the audience about this and how you feel about it?
Well, I guess I feel two different emotions. Number one, I feel saddened by it, and another way I feel happy, because I believe that it's probably about time that people understood that there are astrologers who are professional. I include myself in that category. If I had to sit down with a person who was professional in their field, I would be willing to do that to prove the legitimacy of what I do. The blue law is, I believe, from 1918, and if you read it, it's quite amusing. There's so many blue laws on the book. My
Right.
personal opinion is that they will probably end up removing the blue law. I do not approve of charlatans. I do not approve of people who use astrology or numerology or tarot readings to gain money from people if they are not professional and if they do not really understand fully what they are doing and if they're not legitimate. I don't approve of that. So I believe that I would like to see them pass a law with some kind of certification for a person who is going to practice astrology. Prove themselves before they're allowed to practice. So I think in some ways it's probably for the best.
Okay. Wow, that's very interesting. Right before we take off here, I'd like to mention again that Denise is with the owner of the Metaphysical Center in Watertown. She's also the host of her own show here on Cable 5, Mindscapes, at 10 o'clock on Monday evenings. I'd like to thank you, Denise, for coming on.
Thank you.
You have opened me up quite a bit here, and I've enjoyed it. Again, Mark McEachern, thank you for coming on. I hope you come back. I hope both of you come back.
Nice meeting you.
And we'll get together. And until next Friday, this is Jeff McKeon. Point the camera at me. Come on. Which one? Which one? We're live. I don't care. Anyone. There I am. Okay. Next week is the birthday show. Start sending your presents in now. We're going to change the letters back here from TGIF to GIFT. My headache is gone. This has been TGIF. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Have a great evening. Thanks.
Thank you.